There you go.
Hi, everybody. Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DL Ignite. With me today, I've got Dave Smith. Dave and I are going to be talking about working remotely, what you can be doing, what companies can be doing. Dave, you're ex-Gartner, aren't you?
Yes,
now
I am.
Running your own company. And so where can people find you on the internet?
So I am on Twitter at Dave Mario, DAVEMARIO, Dave Mario. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Dave Smith as well, and my website, inflowanalysis.com.
And you're pretty social. If people can't find you, they're not really trying hard enough, are they?
Indeed.
Yes,
I am around.
You are.
I'm around.
So we've now, where are we now? We're doing this interview in January 2021.
Mm-hmm.
We are in the UK in lockdown. It feels like we've been in lockdown for nearly like 12 months. People must be getting used to working remotely, though I somehow feel that people aren't. So what is it that people should be looking for, and actually people and companies, what should they be thinking about in this current climate?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, is just solving for people, right? It's we all sort of got thrown into this, this scenario of we have to be forced to work from home. I know here in the Bay Area, I'm in California, around 20 minutes outside of San Francisco, south actually of San Francisco, and a lot of the tech companies here, were sort of the first ones, to say, hey, let's all work from home. A lot of us work from home anyway. Some actually did had a mixed culture already of working from home and also in office, but we were first to do it here. But I think what began to happen is there are some people who still weren't used to working from home, and now had to be faced with I'm working from home. And some people were, a little self-conscious about their environment. They have kids at home. They don't think, now that they have to be on video, oh my God, they're going to see my kitchen. They're going to see my living room. And people are like freaking out, like, I don't have the lighting and all this stuff.
I love that. I love the fact that you've got, I can see a plant and stuff. Don't you do that? It's like when you go on calls with people, go,
Yeah. Exactly. Because because before the plan, which I got from Amazon, by the way, right? And my my wife got me a little paint. She's like, you need a little, ambiance, little feng shui in here, right? And so, so she helped me out with the whole thing. But people sort of worried about their environment, and I'm just like, listen, the dog's gonna bark, right? The kids are gonna walk in. My son's walked in plenty of times on calls, but that's life, right? It's life. Yes. That's just gonna happen. It's okay. It's okay.
And I think, some of us are used to that. I've just been on a call with somebody, and there was this funny clicking noise, and the person said, "I'm sorry about that, but my son, he's actually trying to start the cooker, and it was going to click because it was like a gas one." And we kind of went, "Oh yeah, sure." And there was like a dog barking somewhere, and the person just went on mute. But I think you're totally right. What we need to be is not embarrassed about that.
Yeah. It's life, and some days, and so I'm lucky enough here in the Bay Area. I live pretty close to the water, so a lot of times in the morning, I was like, wow, I got, instead of having to drive somewhere for a meeting, I sometimes go by the water. I'll bring my laptop and kind of hang out for a couple hours, and those things. I know not everyone has that ability, but the fact that I had that was so cool to just sometimes get away and just almost be meditative, sometimes in the morning and just look at the water. But
I was reading an article today about fake commutes. Yeah, so it's a bit like a fake commute. I have a friend who lives in a place in the UK called Cornwall, which is a lovely place, and he basically gets up, goes for a walk, as if he was going to work.
That's interesting. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, it's a fake commute, and he always does it. He clears his head. It's a standard walk. I think it's like 30 minutes. He does it whether it's raining or whatever. Because it's like, and it's one of those places where you pretty much need a coat all year round. And he does it, and it just clears his head, and he gets it, and he gets it. And even though he's working from home, he gets into it.
See, and that's probably what I'm kind of doing the whole thing about the water thing. I kind of just go somewhere. Yeah, that's good. That's good. It's good for your mental health, actually.
I think so. Yeah. So, what in terms of I think about working remotely is we need to be thinking about the people, don't we, and the people experience.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, it's solving for the people, right? What do people need with work remote? I remember when we kind of just started with last March, right? When everyone had to be forced to work remotely, and that whole spring, people. I remember, thinking about, okay, like we were saying before, how do I sort of outfit my office now, to be even more, visually appealing or whatever. And so I remember like trying to find ring lights and all this stuff, and ring lights were all on back order because everyone was trying to get get lights. But beyond all that tech stuff and that sort of aesthetic stuff, it was just like, okay, make sure people are okay, right? Make sure that they're set up, make sure that they have the tools that they need, whether it's access to video conferencing tools, team collaboration tools, chat tools. Make sure that they're set up and having the tools they need, and make sure that you're communicating with them in an open and transparent way, because they need to understand, now that they're not in the office, the lines of communication have to be even more open and more transparent and accessible. Sounds good.
So Dave, HR must be a nightmare.
Oh, absolutely. I think with this pandemic, there's just now, huge cultural shift that we face in sort of managing our business and our home lives, right, during this sort of time of transition and transformation. So, those two worlds, we have sort of compartmentalized them, our home lives and our work lives, but they were never separate, and they've merged. And so we're realizing that we made them separate. We sort of compartmentalized. And so even HR now, or companies, have realized, okay, we have to begin to deal with the whole person, right? Yes. Tim is not just my employee. Tim is Tim. He's a son, dad, husband, whatever he is. He's all these things, and so I can't just manage him as just Tim, the employee. I have to now manage the whole person, Tim. Yes. And I think that's the realization that companies are now beginning to deal with. So how do you sort of now look at people's well-being and manage for the whole person and solve for that? And so what will they need? And so it's beyond this HR, tools and systems in place. It's care, it's well-being, it's resources, support, for even home life, right?
Yeah. I totally get that. And I think that's probably one of the big learnings that we've had over the last 12 months is the way that we need, I have people who work for me who are homeschooling or, and you just say, just go and sort it. That's priority. And I think that for a lot of organizations has been a bit of a shock.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, everyone's sort of, working from home now. I mean, they all have unique needs, right? And so the forward thinking, or empathetic HR, and it's not just HR. What companies are finding out now is that it's an all of business approach, right? It's not just about HR, whether it's sales or marketing. You all become, employee relations. You all become people, right? It's all about the people. I know their titles now. I actually just talked to someone yesterday, I think this week, who's the VP of people. So that's the buzzword title. But it's everyone is a manager of people.
Yes. So what is it that companies can be doing to actually meet this challenge?
So I think for one, as I was saying before, it's figure out how do you solve for people, right? And because to me, it's all about the employee experience, right? And the people experience, just as it is the companies are dealing with customers. So I think the employee experience and the customer experience are inextricably linked. So if we're looking at the internal piece of it first, although they're both linked, it's how are people actually experiencing work, right? And are they experiencing it equally? And so are there, the HR systems, the processes, are they effective, even from the hiring and the recruiting standpoint, right? But once people are in, how are they experiencing? How is the communications with people? Are they understanding? Do they have ready and easy access, to systems, resources, and so forth, learnings, training, right? And how is the feedback loop, right? Are you understanding where people are at any given moment? And so I think feedback, simple feedback loop, transparency and communication, again, solving for people, understanding the pulse of your organization. Those are some of the key things. And then prioritizing people's mental health and their well-being.
Because traditionally organizations are hierarchical. And the way that if you think about the factory style of working, what happened was that the boss came out onto the factory floor and told people what to do. And what we've done is that we've transferred that factory style into the office, And so quite often people turn up and they expect to be told, but of course they're now sitting at home. So you can't, managers can't come out and look and see whether John is, why is John taking 2 hours for lunch?
Exactly.
Because you can't see that. So what processes and systems do people need to put in place to make sure that they are meeting that challenge?
Yeah, and so that's why I think these sort of frequent weekly check-ins are going to be key, and just to kind of see how people are doing. But and to your point, and what I got as an inference is like you also don't want to be sort of micromanaging, act like like you're not trusting people. So you have to give people trust. And I think one thing that remote work has shown is that people get their jobs done if you give them the resources that they need. Because for so long, so I remember starting work at Gartner for years. I sort of been a remote employee. We used to call ourselves back in those days pajama workers, because we'll be on these team calls in full on pajamas, right? But kind of business casual, from the waist up, but it's like, and I remember there was always in those days that sort of distrust sometimes, like they're probably slacking off or wrong, and so there's how do you sort of instill trust? Because no, I trust you, right? And we believe in you, and we don't want to break you, but let's support you as you work from home. So I think that's going to be key to frequent check-ins and just letting people know that you trust them. And that's where the open lines of communications becomes even more important, right? And
it's really difficult getting that balance between micromanagement and checking in with people. And I think I'm a terrible delegator. I'll delegate everything. I'll go and play golf. No, I don't play golf, but I'll go and do something else. I'll delegate everything else if I had the opportunity, which some people would like, actually. I think but the thing is that you do have that. I saw something the other day, an article about this cushion that you can get in. That the Chinese have just invented, which go on your seat, which see whether you're sitting at your, and it's like, this is terrible. Back in March, I know there was loads of articles saying, people, no work will get done when people go and work from home, and that's been proven wrong. It is incredibly wrong, and I think too, and the other thing, oh my gosh, so this is interesting. So the other day I was reading an article, and which led to a discussion with a few folks, and one of the things that companies began to realize is that the discrepancy between where people live, so if people live in certain areas, where they, their own employees, here's, like a multi-million billion-dollar company, whatever, but yet they have employees who are now forced to work from home who aren't in the best of environments, who may not have strong internet. And so they began to see the inequalities and the divide, the digital divide within their own employee base. And so there was efforts, I know, by some companies to say, oh my God, we need to rectify the situation, because we're asking people to work from home and they're not even in an environment where they can sort of, efficiently work from home. Not that they can't, but they don't have the resources or even the connectivity to do it. I saw someone the other day saying that they had to go in the office because it was the only place where they could get decent connectivity. And I think it's one of the biggest challenges for governments across the globe, which is not necessarily about whether you have great railway systems anymore, but actually about whether you have great connectivity. Yeah, exactly. And so a lot of companies have to. Yes, a lot of companies have to figure out, the remote work capacity, and to do like a lot of capacity planning, network, and sort of that, that last mile of home, sort of broadband stuff that they have to figure out. So a lot of CIOs that have to be brought in to be not almost just the CIO role, but also empathetic to, okay, what are people actually going through, from a remote work perspective. Yeah, I mean, I know people, that have turned up in ball gowns because they weren't going out. So the next meeting they had was all in black tie. I know a marriage collapsed just before lockdown, and then they had to basically live with the person for the whole of the time. I don't know how they got. I don't know how it worked. Yeah. I really, my heart goes out to them. It really does. If next time I see them, if I'm allowed to, I will hug them, because tears come to my eyes. In terms of people issues, one of the people issues is around security, isn't it? It's about data and content. Yeah, exactly. Because now that you have people, sort of working from home now, your content, your work content and data is on the move, right? Meaning, it's people that access, mobile devices and what have you. So how do you sort of protect your data?
especially if it's sensitive, sort of custom data. So depending on industry you're in, whether it's, financial services or what have you, this becomes, how do you sort of protect and guide against that? So a lot of, network and capacity planning issues began to arise that people or companies had to begin to solve for, because now, your data is over Wi-Fi in a lot of businesses. So how do you protect and keep that secure? So a lot of work was put into that, infrastructure planning, capacity planning, and so forth.
Yeah. And so, as you say, the next step is about capacity planning and understanding, because your IT network now is not just about within the firewall. In effect, you're going outside of the firewall. And you've got things like employees basically clicking on malware and stuff like that on laptops.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I think one of the big things that we saw, which was scary, because I have school-age children, was the whole concept of Zoom bombing. Now, when we're within the when we're in the enterprise, right? We understand security, but now that you're home, now you're vulnerable to all these different types of attacks. So I remember, my daughter was on it was a school call. It happened twice, on a school call, and she was meeting virtually with her swim team. And there was Zoom bomb, and Tim, I gotta tell you, I'm even embarrassed to tell you what she saw. It was that bad.
I'm not sure I want to know.
I'm just. I mean, I was like, oh, I mean, I stuttered for 2 weeks trying to explain to her what all it was. I think I'm still stuttering. I'm like, oh my goodness. But yeah, it was horrible. Yeah, so we began to get all these now new vulnerabilities as we begin to shift towards remote work and work from home, and we're on Wi-Fi, home broadband, and what have you. And so that was a huge task that network engineers and IT folks had to sort of begin to solve for.
I know that in the UK, there's at least one charity that's set up that will, if you give them your old laptop, they will refresh it and whatever, and they'll give it to schools. And because there's a massive digital divide. And the problem is, if a household has 3 children, you've probably got to give them 3 laptops or 3 devices.
So go ahead.
No, go on.
No, because I know here, especially in my school district in the county here, they were, I think a lot of schools around the country were doing it here. You were sort of giving out, Chromebooks and what have you to kids, but even in that, it was interesting to see that some kids, who they still couldn't be at home, so they developed almost like a remote pod where kids can actually go, to almost be in school, but but in a remote thing where they where the home situation was just not set up right for them.
Amazing. And I think that one of the things that we found certainly is that people are very innovative about things, and actually, get on and solve the problems. I mean, one of the I have a friend, Samantha Kelly, on Twitter, who's based in Ireland, and right at the down of the lockdown, she started organizing food to be delivered to vulnerable people. This was before the government basically started or organizations doing that. And of course, she used social media as a way of saying, if you've got somebody, we'll connect you, and so it's but in terms of the innovation, I think that we've seen is that once there's a problem worked out, people don't generally solve it.
It's funny you mention that. I began to see a huge amount of empathy and giving back, even from corporate America. I know here in the Bay, a lot of the tech companies began to reach out. We mentioned Zoom before, right? And others like Cisco began to offer their services for free, or extend their free trials, for video conferences. Different companies began to do that. One company, Zoho, based in, I think in Austin, India as well too, but began to offer their service for free, whether it's their accounting software or collaboration software. But I began to see companies begin like, we need to begin to look at and take care of people. So it was kind of good to see that sort of initial wave of empathy being sort of brought forth by different tech companies.
And also in terms of tools, I mean, what advice do you have with people on tools that they should have? You've mentioned Zoom.
Yeah.
I tend to use Zoom. What about there's things like Teams and that? What are your suggestions?
Well, yeah, so definitely. So yeah, obviously, it's almost looking at the bucks. What do you need? One of the things that the whole pandemic brought on us, and with remote work, we've been talking about digital transformation forever, right? Everyone's going to conferences about it. People are writing books about it, but those experts never predicted this, right?
No.
Usually every year, we made these predictions for the next year, and I'm just like, guys, I don't want to hear from anyone unless you had predicted COVID. I don't want because we're all horrible. None of us predicted this, right? So I don't want any more predictions from anyone ever again. But it's like, how do you now, look at where we are, right? And then solve for what we are. But I think for tools and so forth, it's what do you need, right? It's if you're remote work, you need to connect, right? So we realized that with remote work, everyone needs to connect. And so video became, I've been covering collaboration communication for so long, and I've covered video from back in the Cisco WebEx days and Skype and all that stuff, and I've always preached the importance and the benefits of it, but adoption was always at a certain level, never sort of crossed any major threshold within companies. Obviously there was consumer use of video, but the pandemic was like, whoa, we need video, and I didn't have to convince anybody. It was just a natural extension of I need to connect with a team. I need to connect with grandma. My kids need to connect with school. Video became this medium that was just, it just made sense. And so there was no selling. It was just behaviors change. I need to connect virtually, and this is the way to do it. And so that's digital transformation, where and it happened overnight, right? So all the experts telling us, take the steps, steps 1, 2, 3. No. Whatever the need was that would enable people to get things done and to connect and collaborate, that's the tool you need. So video was a key tool, team collaboration in terms of chat was a key tool, messaging people in real and near real time, and so those things in conjunction, and you mentioned before content and the ability to share content, create content together virtually, those tools that sort of enable that and support that became popular. So, Zoom went through the roof because people need to connect, all the team collaboration tools like Microsoft Teams and so forth, with the video component and also that sort of, team, the messaging, collaboration component, those were through the roof too. Google as well, GChat and what have you, and Hangouts. Those tools went through because they enabled people to be, to extend, to connect with people and collaborate, not just in sort of visually, but also with data and content.
Absolutely. And I've found that the world is speeded up because in the past, what would have happened was that, I live in London. It would have been a case of we wanted to meet, you'd go, well, when are you next in London? Well, that's not for another 3 weeks or something. And then you would meet up. But now it's like we can it's like when we wanted to have a chat, we just get on are you free in an hour? Yes. Right. Well, we're going to chat. and then you're what, 5,000 miles away from me? And we get on the chat for free.
Absolutely. I mean, it was, and I'm saying it was, again, it was what digital transformation, was and is, right? It's just that how do you simplify access to each other? How do you simplify communication with each other? That's the transformation.
Yeah.
That's the transformation, and it's not future of work, it's the very present of work. How do you do this now?
Yeah. Dave, thank you so much for coming on. It's been really insightful, and I'm really jealous of I came out to San Francisco in 2019 and had a 2 weeks out there, and I tried to work out a way for me to go out and work there, but it didn't. Still haven't been able to work out I can spend a year or two in San Francisco, but maybe I'll think about it.
Come on, next time here, I'll show you my spot by the water. Absolutely,
you need to. It's a beautiful place, and
absolutely
it's a nice bit of sun as well. So Dave, thank you so much. Where can people get hold of you?
Yeah, again, thanks for having me. But again, so Dave Mario on Twitter, inflowanalysis.com is my website. You can see all the resources that I do. Also, I am on Instagram at inflowanalysis as well too. So.
Fantastic. Dave, thank you so much for your insight today. I really appreciate you spending the time, and have a great day.
You too, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Dave. Bye.